Stricter border controls are now in place in the country in a bid to keep the Omicron variant out. While local cases are on a downtrend, global cases have been steadily rising even before the detection of Omicron. But one challenge for health officials here in the home front is distributing vaccines before they hit their expiry dates. The highly anticipated debut of Kai Soto in Australia's National Basketball League has been postponed due to an injury. And Seoul is seeking to become the first metropolitan government to join the metaverse. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know to jumpstart your weekend. I'm Riza Diaz. The government is implementing stricter border controls amid the threat of Omicron. But restrictions for domestic movement are now looser as the Philippines is now under alert level 2. Maricel Halili has the report.
As the holiday season nears, many overseas Filipinos are expected to make their way back to the Philippines. But entry to the country just got stricter, even for territories not included in the red list. As mandated by the IATF beginning December 3, fully vaccinated travelers should present a negative RT-PCR test result taken 72 hours prior to departure. They will undergo facility-based quarantine upon arrival. They will take an RT-PCR test on the 5th day and complete the remainder of the 14-day quarantine at home. The same rule applies for the partially vaccinated and unvaccinated, save for the quarantine rules. They would have to take a test on the 7th day of quarantine. They may then complete the remainder of the 14-day isolation at home. Minors will follow the testing and quarantine protocols of the parent or guardian traveling with them.
Na may balak umuwi ngayong Pasko. Sana ay maintindihan po natin kung bakit natin kailangan i-revise ang guidelines. Whatever changes or amendments adopted are prompted by a continuous assessment of prevailing conditions. Tuloy-tuloy po ang assessment natin ng mga development sa buong mundo.
For those coming from red list countries, entry point will only be at NAIA and at the Clark International Airport. Commercial flights are not allowed, exception for those part of repatriation efforts and bayanihan flights.
Sa mga stranded nating kababayan sa Europa na nangangailangan ng emergency assistance o nais na bumalik sa Pilipinas, you are advised to contact the nearest Philippine embassy.
While they want restrictions eased, the business sector is backing the strict travel guidelines.
This is temporary at sabi ni Doc Ed Salvani, temporary until we get to understand how contagious is Omicron. Will there be more breakthroughs? Are our vaccines resilient? Will it prevent us from severe and hospitalization? So I think it's okay that we go through this. Unang defense natin to is to somehow be more conservative, no? But let's not panic.
The country remains Omicron variant free, and with cases reaching new lows, the entire country has now been placed under alert level 2. And with cases reaching new lows, the entire country has now been placed under alert level 2 after restrictions in the Apayao have been downgraded. For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
Now, while Omicron has yet to enter the country, an analyst says the variant will still affect the recovery path of the country's tourism sector. In an interview with the Business World, Moody Analytics Chief Asia Pacific economist Stephen Cochrane said that it may only a matter of time before Omicron enters the country. He added that even without infections, the threat of the variant alone can impact the country's economy as the tourism sector slows down again.
The most immediate impact is, I think, on international travel and tourism, because even if Omicron turns out to be not so dangerous, say. Right now, I think it may be slowing down the pace of recovery of travel. It is one factor that will slow the economic recovery.
Cochrane also said that the country needs frequent inoculation drives. This as the Philippines lags behind other countries in the same region, having vaccinated only around 30% of the population.
There is a ways to go in the Philippines to get the vaccination rate up to 80, 90% up where some of the other countries in the region are. So the fact that the Philippines has these special vaccination programs, these couple of days where they're trying to really get the vaccine out, if this can be done over and over and over again, that would be good.
Meanwhile, thousands of AstraZeneca vaccines expired in Negros Occidental just weeks after it arrived in the province. But the health department is still studying the possibility of extending the shelf life of COVID-19 jabs. Faith Del Mundo has the story.
While the rest of the country was busy ramping up vaccinations, some 14,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccines expired in Negros Occidental. The shots, which expired last November 30, were part of the 45,300 doses that arrived in the province last November 8. They were donations from the COVAX facility. Provincial Administrator Fernando Diaz II said doctors manning vaccine sites did not use the supply since the shots were nearing expiration.
If it has no potency, they will be given a false sense of security na akala nila protected na sila from the virus. Yung pala, hindi naman.
The province is now appealing to the national government.
We would like to accept vaccines that are far from their expiry date, sana, so that we can have more time to work for its disposal or for its inoculation to our vaccinees.
The health department is now looking into the issue to find out who is liable and to prevent similar incidents.
So we are still further investigating this. Ang ginawa na po ng DOH ay quarantine na itong mga bakuna na near expiring na to na ayaw tanggapin.
The expired vaccines, which are still in Negros cold storage facility, will be returned to the DOH. The agency is now looking at the possibility of extending the vaccine's typical 6 months shelf life. Spokesperson Maria Rosario Vergara says they are negotiating with vaccine manufacturers to apply for an amendment to the EUA.
Nakita nila yung posibilidad na pwede pang i-extend yung shelf life at epektibo pa rin ang mga bakuna. Kaya nag-apply sila, and this is what we are doing right now with AstraZeneca as well.
U.S. drug maker Pfizer has so far been the first to move for an extension of its vaccine shelf life in the country. For News 5, Faith Del Mundo, we are One News.
One member of the immunization or the National Immunization Technical Advisory Group, or NITAG, says that vaccines do not have a fixed expiration date. In an interview with 1PH at Totoo Lang, NITAG member Dr. Kongki Lim Quizon said vaccines are not immediately expired when it reaches the expiration date indicated in the packaging. Lim Quizon also clarified that using expired vaccines is not dangerous but only futile.
The worst that can happen possibly is that nawawalan ng potency and therefore nagkakaroon ka ng false sense of security na nagamot ka when in fact ay hindi na pala potent kasi expired na, ganon. But it's not lason.
Lim Quizon also explains that there is a right timeline to follow for receiving booster shots in order to reach the optimum level of protection.
Ngayon may takdang oras o optimum na timing para pag ininiksyon na nun, yung talagang maibuboost niya o yung maitataas niya dun sa level na protective. Kaya kung too early or too late, hindi uubra. You might not get the optimum level na kaya ka nga nagpapabooster para marating mo yung level na yon.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. also watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Cases may be declining in the Philippines, but elsewhere in the globe, infections have been on an uptrend even before the first case of the Omicron variant was reported in South Africa. The World Health Organization has seen a steady increase in cases for the past 7 weeks. On Wednesday alone, more than 600,000 cases and 7,000 deaths were reported. The United States accounted for over 100,000 infections. The WHO attributes this to increased mobility, social mixing, easing travel restrictions, and complacency.
We should not be complacent because of the border control, or we should not just rely on the border control, and to be ready. And this time, the Omicrons, the data suggests that potentially higher transmissibility. So what is very important is to prepare and be ready for this next surge.
Now, while information remains scarce, the WHO is still working with experts to know more about the Omicron variant. So far, what they know is that the variant poses a higher risk of reinfection. Its higher number of mutations also suggests the faster rate of transmission. With this, the WHO warned of possible surges. Kai Sotto's debut in the National Basketball League of Australia will be delayed due to his knee injury. Meanwhile, the Philippine Ascals is preparing for the AFF Suzuki Cup. Here's the report.
It's Kai Sotto back out on the floor. That looked good. That looked really good.
The highly anticipated debut of Kai Sotto in the National Basketball League of Australia has been put on hold. This was after the team said that Sotto will miss the opening game of the Adelaide 36ers due to knee soreness. Sotto took to Instagram to show how his knee looked like during the peak of his injury. Sotto managed to rack up 7 points, 5 boards, and 1 block during Adelaide's first preseason game.
Sotto on the move, lays it up. Yeah, Kai. You would in a game.
On the other hand, the Philippine Ascals are in full preparation mode for the AFF Suzuki Cup, which is set from December 5 to January 1. Ready to make his debut for the national team is recently naturalized player Bienvenido Marañon. The Ascals begin their campaign against host nation Singapore on December 8.
Grizzlies double-digit blocks in each of the last 2 games. Dylan stepping through the lane and scoring.
Meanwhile, 2 records were broken in the NBA on Friday. The Memphis Grizzlies sent the Oklahoma City Thunder to the NBA record books after their 152-79 victory. The Grizzlies gave the Thunder a 73-point thrashing, which became the new record for the biggest margin of victory in NBA history.
Man, he looked good against Portland. A scene for DA and the reverse.
Elsewhere, the Phoenix Suns set a new franchise record for most wins in a row, beating the Detroit Pistons 114-103. Taking their 18th straight victory, Phoenix also now owns the league's best record at 19-3. Kiko D'Emilio, we are One News.
The Seoul Metropolitan Government is seeking to join the metaverse. If successful, Seoul residents may visit sites and file civil complaints all through virtual reality. Let's watch this.
I'm outside the Seoul City Hall, soon to be the first local government to join the metaverse, with plans to establish a platform for contactless communication by the end of 2022. A virtual city hall will allow you to do everything from touring a historic site to filing a civil complaint. The platform will also host some of the city's leading festivals, such as the Seoul Lantern Festival in the metaverse. This $3 million project is part of Mayor Oh Se-hoon's 10-year plan for the city. It also taps into South Korea's Digital New Deal, a countrywide plan to move towards a digital economy with the integration of data, network, and AI. The South Korean government has long been imagining the future of cities, spending the last 2 decades conceptualizing Songdo, its smart city, from scratch. The platform will kick off with a virtual New Year's bell ringing at the end of this year. By 2023, The city will open its Metaverse 120 Center, which will serve as a virtual city hall where residents meet their local officials in their avatar forms to request services or file complaints. The details of how this will work and what kind of devices that people will use to access the platform are yet to be released, but it does provide a glimpse of what the metaverse could mean for urban life. South Korea, along with Barbados, is one of the few governments trying to enter the metaverse. If they can make it work, the metaverse could open doors to millions of people who would otherwise be excluded.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 9 in the morning as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.